Now, resilience, it's a quality we all value, both in ourselves and in other people. But how can you actually teach children to bounce back when things go wrong?
Dr. Justin Coulson is a parenting expert and has written a fascinating new book called 9 Ways to a Resilient Child. He joins us now from Brisbane. Justin, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's start with a question you pose yourself in this book. Are children born resilient?
Yes, they are. Unfortunately, life knocks them around a fair bit, as it does to us, and unfortunately, over time, that resilience can be chipped away at. We've got data that suggests that around about the age of 8, we have around about 50% of Australian children who are resilient or highly resilient. By the time they're 17 or 18, a decade later, that's dropped to somewhere around 27%.
OK, and how can parents, particularly in those younger years, help make their child more resilient?
Well, relationships are at the centre of resilience. If we want our children to be resilient, we've got to have warm, supportive, trusting relationships with them. In fact, every child is in need of at least one significant adult in their lives who can make them feel like they're just crazy about them. You know, they're the most important person in the world. But there's a handful of other things as well. We want to encourage our children to figure out who they are, and from a young age, we do that by helping them to make decisions for themselves and to understand about their family history, you know, where they come from, where their parents come from, where their grandparents come from, where they met, and all those sorts of stories that help them to understand how their family has dealt with adversity and challenge in their lives.
Now, you mentioned there the importance of parents stepping in and helping their kids, but you're also right about the danger of too much helicopter parenting, too much heavy parental involvement in a young child's life. Why is that a bad thing?
Involvement is key. This is one of the fundamental facts of resilience research. We know that we've got to have parental involvement or caregiver involvement so that children feel safe and secure and that their future is predictable. But when we become over-involved, that is when we start doing things for our children that they're actually capable of doing themselves developmentally, that's where we start to take away from their opportunity to grow and learn and master. Now, if they're tired and they're having a hard time and they're 5 years old and they're exhausted and they need some help having dinner tonight, maybe that's okay. You know, we can help them to spoon feed them a little bit. But if they're 16 or 8 and they're still going through that kind of thing, we're probably over-involved and doing a little bit more for them than is healthy or necessary, and their resilience can actually go the wrong way. OK, now let's go to the other end of the parental spectrum. Is there a danger of parents taking too much of a hard-line approach, telling their kids to essentially harden up? You know, if, for instance, a kid is scared about junior cricket, facing a hard cricket ball. I've seen this myself at cricket fields. Lots of parents saying, out you get, the kid might be absolutely terrified, deal with it. What are the consequences of that? Yeah, I call this the toughen up princess syndrome. And we say this to our kids all the time, sometimes really well-meaning. We just want them to say, you know, get out there, get on with it, you'll be fine, get over it, it's okay. And unfortunately, research again tells us that this attempt at steeling our children, steeling as in a double E, like reinforcement steel going into concrete, this attempt at steeling our children can very often backfire. What they need instead is a little bit of empathy, a little bit of compassion. We might say, I know you're really scared, I know you're really worried, give us a hug. All right, now what do you think we should do? In other words, we give them that soft place to be safe, and then we put it back onto them and ask them a resilience boosting question like, where to from here? How can I help? What do you think is the best thing to do now? Give them the autonomy to determine for themselves. If they really want to play cricket, for example, they will actually get back out there and give it a go, even though they're scared.
Now, what about parents who themselves may consider themselves perhaps not too resilient? Can parents train themselves to be more resilient, to be a role model in this space for their kids?
The research would suggest yes. Over the last decade or so, we've learned more and more about the brain's capacity and a human's capacity to adapt and adjust and improve who they are and improve their own lives. So when we practice the same strategies that I describe in the book, you know, being psychologically flexible, focusing on who you are, working on your strengths, eliminating stinking thinking, reducing screen time and getting more green time. All of these kinds of things can help our children, but they can also help us as adults to absolutely become more resilient.
And finally, Justin Coulson, as a parenting expert, I just want to ask you a question posed to me by a friend of mine. He's a dad with a couple of young kids. It's the end of a very long school holidays. And I know I speak on behalf of lots of parents here and is finding the last few days a bit of a trial. What sort of advice have you got for my friend?
Your friend should, as much as it's possible, focus less on me time and more on we time. It seems that at the time that our children are grating on our nerves the most is the time that we actually need to get together and just have a little bit of fun. Maybe when your friend gets home from work today, he might or she might fall down on the floor and have a wrestle with the kids, or pull out some card games or something else and just get involved with the kids. It seems that we time does wonders for our family and for our resilience and our children's resilience and well-being, versus saying, I just need some me time.
I'll pass that on to my friend.
I'm sure he'll be
or
grateful.
She will be very grateful. Thank you, Justin. It's a great read, and I highly recommend it. Thank you.